Welcome to this week's episode of Eye of the Swarm, your deep dive into anything and everything related to Yellowjacket athletics. With the big sound Matt Johnson, I am John Garver, Season 5, Episode 13, and let me ask you a question.
Here we go.
You're a lifelong Upper Midwester, correct?
I am, correct.
Okay, as am I. And do you ever remember a time where a baseball team and a softball team practiced outdoors in January? On grass or turf, not on snow?
Certainly not.
I do not.
Okay, I do not either.
I do not. And
the fact I'm having to dig this deep into my
the recesses of your mind.
Yeah, my recesses of my mind, which is a place I don't usually like to go.
Right.
It kind of hurts. No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't either until last week.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that blew my mind.
There's been a lot of smiles up here from
have
from TJ Oaks and Melissa Fracker over the last couple of weeks.
You know,
and the players, for that matter.
I walked in the one day and I just kind of looked at TJ and said, it's probably nicer out now than it will be in April, so maybe go schedule a game or something.
Well, yesterday it was like 45 or 46 degrees yesterday.
Yeah, it was incredibly nice.
Yeah, I mean, we had fog, and now they're saying, well, it might rain next week. Rain
in February.
Yeah, in February. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, they gave us the...
Meanwhile, half the country's being flooded out.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun, I guess, or not. It's been they say this is a particularly strong El Nino year.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Because old El has taken all the winter
had
from our area.
We've had El Ninos before, and they do warm things up for those of us who live in the northern climates, but
I don't remember anything like this.
No, this one's pretty strong. I don't know. I don't know. I'm obviously not a meteorologist. I'm not a climatologist. I don't know what the full, with an El Nino, what it all means and what is the difference. Why is this one stronger than another one? But
right.
They've been saying now for a while that this is a particularly strong El Nino year, which leads me to think that on the backside we might get hit next year.
Or did we get hit last year?
Possibly, because last year was pretty rough, especially for the spring seasons.
Right.
Which is kind of apropos because we're in the crossover part of the year, which we'll talk about in a moment here. But, it's been pretty bizarre, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, at a certain level, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I like mild winters. I don't necessarily...
I like brown winter.
Yeah, brown winter is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get a lot of precip. I mean, there's still a chance we could get a really big storm.
I imagine we're still going to get pummeled once here.
Yeah.
But
who knows?
Who knows?
I mean, if last year's any indication, we certainly do deserve a lighter one this year. But, then again.
This light?
This is ridiculous.
I've shoveled once.
Yeah, this is almost like concerning.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, this is
worrying.
Yeah.
It's the whole, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know where to put my hands. I mean, it's weird.
Yeah.
It just feels strange.
Well, it does kind of reinforce the idea that things are changing as far as our climate goes, because I don't ever remember having, years where we were talking about El Nino or La Nina or any of that kind of stuff when I was a kid. It was just every winter was pretty harsh.
Yeah.
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 And now it's becoming more of a year-to-year basis. So.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what all that means, but...
I don't know what it means either. I just know it means that baseball and softball practiced outdoors in January.
Yeah, and there might be a chance now that tennis might be able to get outside a little bit more, too.
Tennis was outside yesterday.
Yeah.
We'll find out a little bit more about that, too, when they join us in the roundtable segment. But it's... Yeah, we put a baseball series for March 1st on the calendar now.
Yeah. That's ambitious. We'll see if we can follow through with that.
Hey,
but
the field's playable as it right now. So
yeah, it is. And the temperatures, if we would have played yesterday, it would have been actually pretty nice.
It would have been really nice. It would have been nicer than some of the days we played in last year.
Yes, correct. Yes, it would have been. So we'll see.
We'll see.
We're coming to the end of the winter season as it is. So, which is weird always to say.
It is, and it just seems like this year it happened a lot more quickly than it has in years past.
Yeah,
this one went quickly.
From my perspective, I felt like we didn't have as many home games as it just feels like that. It doesn't necessarily. I know that's probably not the truth, but it just feels that way because I felt like I'm not used to having both basketball teams on the road the final 2 weeks of the year where they're where they're not going to be here, and before we find out if there's going to be tournament play for both one or both of them, and then hockey got one regular season series to go for you guys, and then women's hockey pretty much in the same boat. Maybe a few more games for them. I
They
don't
have
remember.
2 series left.
They have 2 series left.
Their
Okay,
season
but
was a week longer than the men.
okay, but I mean, we're coming to that end, and of course, indoor track and field is already going.
Yeah, they're halfway through their schedule.
They're
now.
halfway through their schedule, and the tennis teams now are officially back in their spring season. So both of them. So it's busy right now. There's that crossover portion of the year, last week I would say going now for the week that was portion of the program here.
Dynamite transition.
Yeah, thanks. That broadcasting school is really paying off. I would say it was kind of a mixed bag of results, I think, for the teams for the most part last weekend. Women's basketball definitely had the best week, I think, of everyone. They're just rolling right along right now.
They are.
And, they put themselves in a prime position now. And
They really did. I mean, I feel like they're in the driver's seat.
Yep.
With that game at hand, they'll make that up tonight.
Yep, against Northland.
Against Northland, but I feel like they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, this was a big weekend for them. They beat 2 good teams in North Central and Northwestern at home. Finished the conference season unbeaten at home, which the first time they'd done that since probably 18, 19.
Yeah, probably.
Team.
I think Zach Autofish's first year.
Yeah, I think Zach's first year. That was the 24-win squad that lost in the tournament title game by 1.
Yep.
But I think that's probably the last time that we had an undefeated home record for the women. And the men had a split, and made things difficult.
Yep.
For themselves in a number of ways in both games, really.
Right.
Played a really good first half, thanks to Javon Walker. On Friday, second half against North Central was really, really tough. There was a lot of indecision and a lot of missed shots in there. And then against Northwestern, the offense just was not there. And it's kind of been the story all year long. You score 82 and you beat North Central on Friday, then you score 45 the next day. They've been seesawing up and down. It's been a problem all year. And when they lose games, it's usually because they don't shoot the ball particularly well. Yep. Defensively, they're okay, but they can't find the bottom of the net, and that's what happened against Northwestern. Usually when you give up 55 points at home, you're probably going to win,
right?
But they didn't because they couldn't make any shots on their end of the floor, and it was that was a frustrating game. I happen to know that Greg was frustrated with how they played, Coach Bolkowski, but. They're right now in a logjam for second place right now in the league. There's 3 teams that are 6-4, and then there's 2 teams that are 5-5. So it's a real logjam. These next couple of weeks are going to be big for them.
Yeah, critical because you could go from being the 2 seed. No one's catching Bethany.
Nope.
So you go from being the 2, or you're the 6th and on
Possibly
the
out.
outside.
Yeah. So these next 4 games are going to be really important for them.
And they're not going to be easy.
No, they're on the road.
All of them are on the road,
All of them are on
and
the road.
3 of them are against
Teams that beat you the first time.
And you're playing Bethany, who's going to be the conference champion, and then you're playing Crown, who you're tied with.
Yep.
Playing Morris, who
beat you
in their gym is always a difficult out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a big challenge for the men, I think, down the stretch. The women, I can't say enough about the job that Emily's done. They gritted out a couple of wins this weekend against teams that they typically struggle against a little bit. But played really, really a strong game against Northwestern, I thought, for the most part. That game was tight throughout. Neither team really got much of a lead. It was basically a nail-biter throughout. Led most of the way against North Central. Then North Central came back, rallied back, took the lead in the third quarter or in the fourth quarter, and then UWS just kind of put their foot down. And one of the things that they're showing is that they're really well coached, and they get to the free throw line, they make their free throws. And they're getting contributions across the board right now.
Yep.
Different players are stepping up every game. So, they had 4 in double figures against North Central. Then the next day they have Katie Dobson comes to the light and she scores 18. When she's averaging about 5 a game.
She's had a quiet year.
Yeah, she's had a quiet year, and I know Emily wants to get her going a little bit more. She's a good offensive player. And trying to get her to shoot the ball more. And she showed why she should shoot the ball more on Saturday, the way she played against Northwestern, because she was really good in that game. But they guard, they play hard, they rebound well, and they make timely shots. That's one of the things that they've been doing pretty consistently this last few weeks, whether they've been at home or on the road. Mm-hmm. They make plays down the stretch of games, and that's how you win. That's how you win.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
And they should win tonight, and then they'll be on the road for the last 4. But like you said, they have a game up now on everybody in the conference. Mm-hmm. So, assuming that they play well enough on the road, I would expect that they'll be at home for a playoff game at least.
Yeah, I would imagine they're going to finish in the top 2.
Yeah, in the top 2. It's going to be either be first or second, I think, depending on how things go.
It's going to come down to what happens when they go to Morris.
Right. But I think for the most part, they're, they control their own destiny, and they're perfectly capable of winning all 5 of these games on the road, based on what I've seen. So it's going to be fun. We'll see where they end up, though, in a couple of weeks and see who gets the top 2 seats. Men's hockey, rough weekend. Technically, it's a split, but
yeah, it's a split.
I know it's a disappointing split, though.
Well, they haven't done themselves any favors.
Yeah,
they're a lot like men's basketball.
Yeah,
they're painfully inconsistent, and they defend well. I think that Saturday night was their third 1-0 loss of the year.
Yeah,
they defend well, but they have problems scoring. And at this point,
where we heard that before.
Yeah. And at this point, I feel it's more mental than anything. And I feel like if they get the first goal, they're going to be okay. When they don't score the first goal, and they start to grip the sticks a little bit tighter because they know how difficult it's been for them to score goals. So when they're down that first one, they get in their heads a little bit, and they can't get out of it.
Yeah.
But the offense has been a struggle all season long.
Yeah.
11 times they played 23 games. 11 times, so almost half. They've scored 1 or fewer goals.
Wow.
So, that's what they are.
Yep.
They're a team that struggles offensively. They're very good defensively, but they struggle on offense.
Yep. That's the same with the men's basketball team.
Yep. They're exactly the same. And so you're sitting here going, well, okay, you went into last weekend knowing that you could lock yourself into the top 4 and have a home playoff series, and you win your first game to give yourself the tiebreaker against UW Stout, which is good. And now you're moving into, a chance to almost lock yourself in third place. And they get shut out. Lose a 1-0 game, and then River Falls gets an extra point winning a shootout at Eau Claire, and that puts them 5 points back with 6 points to go. So now you're sitting here going, we need 2 because River Falls has the tiebreaker on you. So we need 2 points here in these last 2 games.
Yeah.
And then we can lock into a top 4 and get a home playoff series. You're going to play the number 1 seed in the conference this weekend on the road in a building that's difficult to play in, that you haven't picked up many wins in over the last decade.
Yeah.
And River Falls, who's trailing you, is playing the number 6 seed. A team that has 1 win.
Yep.
You haven't made this easy on yourselves. You've left way too many points on the table.
Yeah.
If they close the deal against River Falls on that Friday and don't go to the shootout, then you're not even having this conversation.
Right. Yeah.
But because you couldn't close and gave up a goal with less than 2 minutes to go, you gave them that extra point.
Right.
That's a 2-point swing. Suddenly they're 7 points back, and you're already locked into the top 4 if you just get that win there.
Yeah.
So there's a point you left on the table there that hurts you. You got swept at home by Eau Claire. You split against UW Stout. You have left a lot of points on the table.
Yeah, and this is where it comes back to bite you.
It comes back to bite you. So now you're fighting for your lives, and you could finish anywhere from 3rd to 5th, depending on what happens this weekend.
Yep. So men's hockey didn't do themselves any favors.
Nope.
Still a lot on the table for men's basketball. All the marbles to play for the women.
Yep.
They could win the regular season crown for the first time in about 5 years. So that's all going on. Women's hockey, I really don't know what else to say about them other than the fact that everything that could go wrong has gone wrong.
Yep.
They ended up losing to River Falls on Saturday, 13 in a row now. It's at this point, it's just the thing you worry about in this case is just them losing their heads completely,
right,
and just complete checking out.
That said, they've got 4 left. They're all at home.
Yep.
And you're not catching 1 or 2.
Right.
But you're essentially in the driver's seat.
Yeah, they already
get to finish 3rd.
They have the tiebreaker over Stevens Point as of now.
Right now.
Yeah.
And they play them twice this weekend. So, you take care of business there.
Yep.
And Stevens Point's done after this weekend.
Okay, so
if you take care of business here and leapfrog them, you're the 3 seed.
Yep.
And you don't have to play in that miserable play-in game.
Yeah. Which they've had to do the last 2 years.
Which they've had to do. So,
Yep.
they know what they need to do
Yep.
over the course of these next 4 games.
Yep. And that is definitely the truth. And like I said, at least they'll be home.
Yep.
So they'll have that advantage.
Yep.
Men's and women's indoor track and field just rolling right along. Mm-hmm. Lake Superior Challenge this past weekend. Men won 5 events. Women won 1. Mm-hmm. But, because there are no team scores, it's really hard to see, to know exactly where everybody stands.
You almost end up looking at the
individual
the
stuff.
season best and personal records that come out and go, okay, I can see how we had a really good day then.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, because there aren't any points until the conference titles, championship meet, which will be hosted by us again.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's always that's a that's a marathon 2-dayer right there.
That's
but
a big one.
it looks like the men are certainly in a good place, and I'm guessing women are too.
Yep.
It's tough because when they're competing, you and I are in the middle of other things.
Yep.
All the time. So depending on how things shake out here over the next couple weeks.
Even when they're here, and I might be running back and forth between the rink, the gym, and the field house where they're competing, you stand and you watch a little bit.
Yeah.
There's all this stuff happening. You still really don't know
what
kind of a day they're having.
No.
I walk into the gym and I'm like, oh, okay, we're having a day because we're up by 30 at the half. It's very tangible.
Right.
I come here and it's like,
not until the scores come out.
Who looks happy? Who's unhappy?
Yeah, exactly.
What's Glenn's expression?
Right, yeah. Well, then they have to tally up the points and all that stuff, so it takes some time, to be able to know. That's why day 2 is more fun, because you actually know where the teams are at here heading into day 2.
Yep.
So, men's and women's indoor track and field certainly, hopefully, in line to defend their conference titles in a couple of weeks. They are back home, though, this weekend.
Yep.
They're hosting the Midday Classic, which is always an emotional one.
Very much so.
Yep. So, in honor of Sam Midday, the former assistant coach. We're not going to go into any more detail than that, but it'll be a big weekend. And I know it's alumni weekend as well for them. So, it should be fun. If you get a chance to come out and watch, go ahead. I think the iFan Sports...
iFan will be streaming,
Okay, so they'll be streaming it as well. So that's pretty cool. And then men's and women's tennis kicked off their spring season. Well, the men the previous week, but the women actually kicked off their spring season. Lost to McAllister on Saturday, but the men picked up 2 wins, 2 nice wins. Beat McAllister, and what did they beat? Wartburg, that's what it was. So 2 non-conference
Came from behind
wins.
on Wartburg.
Yeah, nice.
That's a nice win.
Yeah. So they're 3-3. The women are now 3-2. Are they playing this weekend? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay. I'd have to go back and look at who they're playing, but maybe we can ask.
We'll ask them when they're.
here.
I'm drawing a blank right now.
I know. There's only so much I can take. So much incoming. So, but that's what happened last week. So there's some good stuff out there still. Men's basketball, despite their struggles, are tied for second as of right now. The women are all alone in first. Men's hockey, they put themselves a little bit behind the 8 ball, but if they can, put together a nice game and maybe take one of those 2 against Stevens Point,
then you're suddenly sitting playing in a home playoff series, which is where you want to do.
Yep, women's hockey is kind of the same story. If they take care of business, they'll
be a 3 seed.
They'll be a 3 seed, and then you've got tennis and men's, women's indoor track and field are home next weekend. So it's as much as we talked about the struggles that they've had. It's not all doom and gloom.
Right.
So that's a big. There's still some action to be played out, and hopefully some good results coming up.
And with that, we'll take a timeout, and when we come back, we will sit down with head coach CeeJay Schaffner and I believe Brooke Wilfong from the Yellowjacket women's tennis team. So it'll be our first foray into the tennis conversations for the year, and again, a team that practiced outside yesterday.
Yeah, we'll see how that felt.
So we'll find out what that was all about.
What that was all about.
That'll all be coming up in the roundtable segment after this. You are watching Eye of the Swarm.
Find your passion. Find your people. Find your purpose. Find your superior.
We're back for the roundtable segment of this week's Eye of the Swarm, and we are heading to the tennis court, if you will, to talk a little bit, I guess, outdoor tennis in January and February.
Yep.
we'll
Indoor / outdoor.
We'll touch on that in a little bit, but
tennis.
Coach CeeJay Schaffner, Brooke Wilfong from the women's team are with us, and we talked about this a little bit in the opening segment because as a lifelong Midwesterner, I do not remember a time when in January and February baseball and softball were practicing outside. And I know yesterday you were wheeling things outside.
Yep. Yeah, yesterday it turned out to be a nice day, so we're like, well, let's set up the nets and play. So we set up the nets and practiced outside, and the sun dropped. We were playing outdoor tennis in February under the lights in Wisconsin, which is just
You've never experienced
no,
that?
No, never. So it was great. The sun dropped. It dropped a couple degrees, but it was fine. We're not on our field house surface. We're outside, and it was cold and a little bit windy, but not too bad. So it was good.
I want you to expand on, because you've said this a couple times, you're not on the field house surface. So for the novices out there, well, hard court is hard court, right? Not all hard courts are the same. So talk about what you mean by we got off the field house surface and we're actually on a tennis surface.
Yeah, we've been very intentional this year with our training schedule. Mondays and Fridays we practice in our field house. Tuesdays and Thursdays we go up to the indoor sports center in Duluth and practice on a hard court. Our field house is more of a rubber surface. The field house is probably 100% faster than a hard court. So it's not, conducive to a great training environment. So when we are in here on Mondays and Fridays, we do a lot of off-the-ground stuff, so serving and volleying. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do a lot of match play up at the indoor club. So, it was nice yesterday, and the tough part is transitioning from one surface to the next and then to a match surface, which is the same as our indoor in Duluth. So we want to train on that as much as we can because that's our match surface. And we want to go back and forth as little as possible. So it was big time yesterday to get another day in a row on a hard court. And it's, this week is looking really good for our preparation for this weekend against Bethel.
There it is. Previous segment, we sat there going, "Who
yeah,
are they
we
playing?"
knew
I
you
could
were
not
playing. We just were
remember
like,
who
we
it
just
was.
could not think of who
And
it was.
it was really bothering me because I looked at it this morning and I just.
Well, see, I
it
didn't
just
look at it
wasn't
this
there.
morning.
I just
I knew
was
who they
not
had just
there.
played. I didn't know
I knew that
who
I got
they
that
were
part,
playing.
but I
Yeah.
could not remember Bethel. So thank you for doing that.
We have too much stuff in our heads right now, so yeah, that's the problem.
And most of it's useless, but it's all still up there.
Yeah, it's still up there. I could use a reboot. If you got a new microchip or something, that would be great.
I don't have one, but
Okay.
unfortunately.
Oh well, yeah. There you go.
That was a bit of a slap. I like it.
I know, just right upside my head. Knock that microchip around a little bit, maybe clear some memory out. So yeah, I mean, tennis is a little bit different in terms of how the season goes than some other sports. Talk about a little bit with Coach Paul Eberhardt when it comes to golf because they kind of do a similar thing where they split it up because you can play in the fall and then in the spring. Most teams don't have that kind of situation where you can play in the fall and the spring. Most teams, of course, just play in either fall, winter, or spring. So I know you guys played a few matches at the in the fall. Now you're starting out the spring. In that period in between, I mean, what is kind of the focus in terms of transitioning from that? That's always been a question that I have because that's kind of a long break. You're talking 2-3 months in there where you guys aren't playing an actual match, but you're still practicing. How does that all work out? What's the approach there when you go from fall, take that little bit of break in the winter, and then go back in the spring season?
Yeah, it's a bit of a puzzle to put together.
Okay.
But in the past, and this year it's been different with a different practice model. In the past, it's been really tough because we go literally 3 months without practice. Whereas this year we were able to train a little bit with a new model in the off season. So once our fall matches ended, we were able to still stay on court for once or twice a week. Sometimes we did some lessons just individually. Sometimes we did some team stuff, just really to keep the players engaged in practicing in the off season. Just some touch points throughout the off season as well. So. But yeah, we had a nice fall season, and this spring has been, we have a great schedule. I'm super excited for the schedule this year. We're playing some fun matchups, so it should be good rolling into this January, February.
How is it from an athlete's perspective to have that split? I mean, is it difficult?
I mean, it gets a little difficult with having that big break, but it's also okay, we had our fall season. Now we focus on lifting and practicing once a week, and it's good that it's towards the final end stretch of the semester because then you're not being oh, I have practice right now and matches right now, and it's also finals, and you're super stressed out, but it also like helps you ease out of like the tennis part of it while also like getting to play and focus more on your academics. So I think it's good, but I don't know how others feel.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. This
Yeah.
this schedule this year, we have the first semester finals. We didn't train or anything for like 2 weeks leading up to that. In the spring, in the past, we've been able to, we've had to go right into finals during nationals or during a conference tournament, whereas this year we have all that done by the time we have to get to finals. So it's
Yeah.
actually going to be a really nice balance for the student athletes this year.
When you're talking about the mods, this practice model,
Yep.
it's an NCAA thing where they allowed they
Extra
they
days,
eased
right?
up on
Yeah.
some of the rules a little bit and gave you the extra days, which allowed you to not just have to cut ties for 3 months and kind of leave them on their own.
Exactly. Yeah, it used to be whereas if we practiced Monday, it was the whole week. We had to practice the whole week to utilize those 19 weeks. Whereas now we get just a day count. So it's been really. I think the balance is going to be great for the players.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know you guys also have a spring trip coming up too. I mean, we talk about
Oh,
baseball and
yeah.
softball with their spring trips. I know you guys also look forward to it. You guys are going down to Florida again, is that
Yeah,
right?
yes.
Okay, and how many matches are you going to play down there?
So the women will play 4 or 5 matches, and then
Okay.
the men will play 4 or 5 matches plus a couple exhibition ones.
Okay, that's another cool thing I think. With tennis as well, not just a split season, but you get a chance to also go down to Florida and also play some more matches, and it's nice for them. I'm assuming you look forward to it just because it's playing out in 70 to 80 degree weather.
Oh my gosh, it's so nice, especially like with practice yesterday. It's like a 50-degree difference, and there's sun, and you're not under lights, so I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think all the athletes that go on those trips really look forward to them, not just because of playing ball or playing tennis, but also just the chance to kind of go out and be in a different place, be in a different environment, get a chance to see some other things, and the whole experience is very cool. So
Yeah, it's a great team bonding thing too, because we're all stuck in a house together. So
stuck in a house together.
for 7 days, like
Yeah.
there could be a little bit of fighting, but there hasn't been with the women's team. So
Well, I get the sense that there's good chemistry between both squads, both the men and the women.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good chemistry. I mean, we joke around a little bit, but that kind of shows how comfortable I think you guys are together. I mean,
Yeah.
And it's still a young group, especially on the women's side.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very young group. I mean, how's it been having the newcomers come in this year?
it's been so nice just because we're all either sophomores or freshmen, so we know what it's been like as a returner in their situation, and being able to kind of help them in the way that we didn't know we needed help. So they're all super nice, and I love them all. I'm like, oh, these guys are just like my best friends.
Right, and there's a couple internationals in there
Until
too,
they have to
which
spend
is
7 days
interesting.
together in a house. in
Right,
Florida.
right.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is also that's cool though is that between the men and the women, there's a lot of international flavor on these two teams.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
when you talk about chemistry and everything, it's
Yeah.
not always easy to build when you have so many different countries and cultures that people are coming from.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that, especially on the men's side?
Yeah. No, it's actually, I enjoy it. And I think it is sometimes helps that culture building and team building because you have friends from all over the world bringing different viewpoints to the team. And, it's just figuring out how to make sure everybody feels like their culture and everything is important. And I think it's been really fun to just share that with each other and just build the connections based on those differences.
It's one of the things that I've always admired about Coach Mooney's men's soccer team. There's a lot of international flavor on that squad as well. I get a chance to cover Duluth FC during the summer. And
Plenty of international.
just about everybody's international there,
Right.
or at least from out of this region. So, and I know you know about that because you hosted a player last year.
Yep.
So, but whenever you have that international kind of experience where you're bringing in guys from and gals from around the world, and literally his roster is literally from around the world.
Right.
And it's interesting to see how the group comes together. Just to see just how the personalities mesh,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the cool part of it.
Brooke might have to help me here, but I think we have USA, and within the USA we have Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Yeah, don't
Right.
forget Minnesota. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then within the world we have Russia, Ecuador, Germany, Brazil,
Japan.
Japan, right? And in
Wait,
the
did you
past,
say Germany?
Yep.
Oh,
And in
okay.
the past, we've had guys from Hungary. So it's a really diverse squad. So
Yeah, and that's interesting.
Colorado, too. Can't forget about
Right.
mine.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting also because
Late edition though, so
right,
it's-
yeah. Because recruiting also kind of in tennis and soccer at a certain point for Coach Mooney. For you, it can be international. Like we tend to with a lot of our athletes are regional. They come from either Superior or they come from the Twin Ports. Some of them, come from maybe the Twin Cities or the Milwaukee area, and then there's a few, of course, that come from like Canada and men's hockey and women's hockey. But you guys are truly international. How do you find these players?
Yeah, through recruiting agencies a lot,
Okay.
and just connections with former players and current players. So it's just kind of this, that, and the other. Recruiting can be really random. It's like this way might work for this year, or this way for that year, this way for this player, this way for that player. So it can kind of just be random. You're just kind of figuring out what works, and I think a lot of the randomness involves just like finding the right fit for the actual person, not necessarily where they're from or what they do. It's just like if we can connect on a certain like level, they can feel like they fit with our group, and that's the kind of why it can be random.
And I know what your recruiting budget looks like, so I know you're not traveling the globe to go and see all these players play. How do you evaluate? Obviously, video has to come into play, but it's hard because you can't get the full feel for the player by watching video.
Yeah. So that's the thing. You got to get the full feel, right? So the first thing is you do watch the video and you look at their grades and their background and what they do outside of tennis. If that seems like a good fit, you get them on a Zoom call and you talk to them and their family. You keep the recruiter involved in the conversations, and then if that goes well, I usually say, if you feel like we're, one of your top options, let's get you on the phone with the team so you can talk to them and make sure you mesh that way, okay? And then we kind of go through the process of going through more calls and just making sure it's the right fit. So, yeah, it can be a lengthy process.
Do you have an interpreter with you through that? Because I imagine there's language barriers in there.
Actually, no, I don't have an interpreter, but usually they're pretty good.
Okay.
So usually there is an English requirement to come to the university, and usually they're pretty good. We can hold a pretty good conversation. It's fun to kind of see the English on their first call,
Right.
And then get them here and have them grow. So
Right.
they're learning the language as they learn their degree, which is kind of cool to see too. So
I think also that these players also, I think there seems to be an understanding amongst international students that if you're going to go and play college tennis in the United States, or if that's something that you want to do, you should probably speak English. You know what I mean? And I hate to say it like that, but a lot of the athletes, especially that you run into, are either very fluent in English or pretty close.
Yeah.
And that's something that my brother-in-law is from Germany, and he basically said, English is very, very much emphasized in German schools as a child. So a lot of like the German exchange students, for instance, because you have a German player on the women's team, I know. They speak a lot of English at an early age, and it's really emphasized in their curriculum, which is again kind of part and parcel. If you're going to go and play in the United States and get an education in the United States, you should probably speak English pretty well.
Yeah, and at the same time, we've been on the bus working on ESL classes with the players together. So
Right.
it's kind
Wow.
of fun to just see the minimal language at the beginning and just see it grow. So
Yeah.
Like Len.
like Len.
Len,
yes.
he didn't even talk last year during first semester to anyone. And he didn't know, it just sounded like he didn't know anything. And then our second semester, he talked a little bit more, and he finally learned my name. And
You learned who you were.
yeah. And then, like, this past weekend when we went to play McAllister, he was, oh my gosh, he did not shut up when he was talking to everyone. And I was like, okay, you have grown a lot. And it's been really fun to watch him grow specifically because of how little he talked at the beginning. So,
Well, and things like that.
Yeah.
That's part of the kind of the journey. It's not just about how you perform on the court. It's also about, building that bonding experience, especially when you have a lot of internationals that are, maybe a little bit going to be on the quiet side. They'll be fine when it comes to the tennis side, but they might look around and be like, okay, what is this all about? What else am I going to do here? How am I going to fit in with the rest of these people?
Right.
And so that can be a process. And that's a cool story because that just shows that, he's kind of growing along with the programs and with the players on both teams.
Well, and it says a lot, too, about how they have made him comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's huge. I mean, that's a dynamic that's at play even for, Americans coming from anywhere. You want to make everyone feel comfortable, but think about going to a whole different country where you're not from, and it's not your first language, and now you're having to, hopefully they accept me,
Right?
Because that's another barrier to have to cross, and that can be challenging. But it sounds like you guys are on top of it, at least for now.
Yeah, it's been super nice because I know that like last year a lot of us were freshmen, so coming in we didn't really know anyone. Like I knew one person when I came to school, and being able to be like a support system for everyone and feel like you're going to practice and it's welcoming and you're having fun and meeting new friends, it was really good, and I hope that we can like keep that up just for everyone in the future too. So
It's very cool. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the start of the season. We talked about ITAs, we talked about the break. Let's talk a little bit now about how things have gone. The men are 2 weeks in. Women started last week. The uneducated will look at it and go, 8-1. Oh, they got smoked. But from a coach's standpoint, it probably wasn't an 8-1. There was probably a lot more positive that you saw than negative.
Oh yeah. Just being the first match, there's a lot of nerves, which is what you expect. That's what you want. And if you're not nervous, then I don't know what's going on. But that's it's good to see that and just get going. McAllister's a really tough team, and we know that every year. It's one of our first matches, and just going in, we're like, all right, we're just going to play the best that we can and see what happens. Maybe we can sneak one or two. Brooke with a nice win at 6 singles.
Yep.
So that's great to see. But yeah, we just, it's a learning experience, and they all know that going in, and they tell each other that, hey, don't worry, like this is okay. But they're tough. Credit to Ted and his squad. They're a good program. So yeah. And the men played well against Wartburg and McAllister. So it was a good weekend.
Because, you haven't had any easy ones for them.
No.
Right out of the chute.
Yeah.
No, and
Fellas, we're going to be tested here.
yeah. And last year we had a great year, and we kind of realized that we need a tougher schedule. So, putting together that schedule this year was fun to do. But we do have some challenges this year. And Whitewater and Carroll right off the bat with a couple. So Stritch closed in Milwaukee, and they kind of dispersed around that area to Carroll, Whitewater, MSOE. So they got some really good players at the top that used to be scholarship players. So those are fun matches just for everybody to just compete at a high level. And Len got a nice win at 2 singles there against Whitewater, so that was great. And then, McAllister on the men's side was good. Wartburg was solid. So, it was a good weekend. And, Bethel will be tough again this weekend. What's crazy is Bethel women, Brooke might not know this yet, Bethel women beat UMD 9-0.
yeah, I knew that.
So, okay, yeah.
Yep.
So, that'll be a really a challenge as well this weekend. And then the men got better from last year, too. So, that'll be another tight one, similar to McAllister for the men. So.
It does seem like the programs are building pretty consistently. I mean, you talked about this last year, that the women were still very young and kind of learning. Had a good year last year, and the men had a really, really good year. And you return a lot of players from those teams, so it's getting that kind of footing.
Well, it's
that
about getting
foundation.
battle tested now too.
Yeah, it's getting that foundation under you, and then kind of building from there. And Brooke, you're in your second year.
The grizzled veteran of
The
the group.
grizzled veteran
Yeah,
of the group.
I'm actually the oldest one on the team. Just putting that out there.
I mean, how have you seen? What are the changes that you've seen even from last year to this year? Like, I mean, how has the team kind of changed from where it was last year at this time to where it is this year?
Well, I mean, a lot of us didn't know what it was going to be like when we went and played McAllister and Bethel last year. We thought, okay, we'll see how this goes. And we played our doubles matches, and we were like, oh, crap. And I was like, okay, we'll just see how this goes. And we kind of got blown out of the water. But a lot of us held our own during our matches, I felt like.
Okay.
This past time around, me and Kate lost 5-8 in doubles, and last year it was 3-8, so with my old partner. So it was better, and I think all of us are like, okay, we know that these teams are going to be tough at the start of the season, and that's going to help us get better for when we get into our conference.
Right.
And that's how we have to look at it, instead of, oh, we're playing 2 super hard teams at the beginning of the season and we're going to get smoked.
Right.
It's just a whole mindset kind of change from last year, and I think telling the freshmen that this year is really good.
Well, and you guys also had some nice results during the fall.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had a couple wins against WIAC teams. You beat St. Norbert. I mean, those are good, solid wins, and that's a nice springboard into the spring, I would think.
Yeah, it's been super nice to be like, okay, this isn't our very first match and we've lost. We've already won a few. we're going in, and it's better than when we played last year because I don't think we had any fall matches. So we were like, all right, this is our whole season kind of thing, and now we're going in and knowing that we already have a few wins under our belt. So
Plus the ITAs, which also helps.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Yeah.
I would. You're a couple years into playing those now. How beneficial has that been?
Extremely.
Because the first year I think is a little, whoa, okay,
Look at all this. Yeah.
But you've had a couple nice runs over the last couple of years getting into the second day and everything.
Yeah. It's freshmen don't play well at that tournament, and that's no offense to freshmen. It's just like you're seeing all this regional talent that you've never seen before.
Right.
So just the year after year after year, when you start to see what it's like, you feel more comfortable in that atmosphere, and then you start to make runs. So no, it's good to go again this year, and we actually got a second individual tournament this past fall. So the folks went to ITAs over in Whitewater, and we had a group go to Gustavus at the same time, and they saw some success there. So just building upon what we have has been really fun to see. Just like year after year, what can we do just a little bit better? And as when Brooke's a senior in 2 years, it'll be a lot of experience under her belt, and who knows what'll happen.
She's making a run.
Yep. I'm going to win ITAs at that point. I'm just kidding.
No, we'll see.
Well, and that's the advantage of, like I said, of having a big event like that, whether it's in Whitewater or Gustavus, who's feels like they've hosted it forever, is that you get a chance to see everybody who's out there, or at least the type of talent you're going to be seeing. Because teams come from all over the place to play in those tournaments, and that's a nice kind of way to break the ice, I think, and just look around and say, hey, okay, this is what the competition's going to look like now that I'm in college.
Yep, and we belong too. That's a big piece of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Our top doubles team was serving for the match against the 1 seed this year in the main draw. It's like, okay, we can play with these players. So, but yeah, no, it's really cool to see that progress.
Let's talk about the individuals. We've talked about how there's a lot of new faces on the women's side. So let's talk about some of these players and who has stood out to you so far, who's kind of been the surprise so far, and what your expectations are for these kids going forward.
Yeah. Maya came in from Germany. She's playing that top spot right now, so she's been great. Claudia came in from Lake Mills, Wisconsin. She's playing that 2 spot right now. So got a returner at 3 with Jessie from Hermantown. 4, we had Julia. So Julia versus McAllister there. She's from Brazil. She's a freshman as well. So already 1 through 4, we got 3 freshmen, and then Kate from Annandale, Minnesota, at 5, and Brooke played 6 this past weekend. So that's 4 freshmen in the top 6 there, and they're all playing really well. And there's a couple freshmen right outside that top 6 that are trying to work their way in. So with the sophomores, it's a battle. We're pretty deep this year, and kind of showed when you win at 6 versus McAllister, and you play a couple extra matches and do well there. So it's good to see that depth.
Well, I was gonna speak to the depth because we haven't had that on the women's side ever.
Yeah, I mean the men have been pretty deep.
The men have been pretty deep for
a
few years, and especially the last couple of years have been very deep. But on the women's side, there hasn't been that same kind of depth.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily just the depth, it's you get the quality, so the person who in some ways was forced to maybe play at a 2 or a 3 can now slot in at a 3 or a 4 and set themselves up obviously to be more successful.
Right.
Yeah, you're kind of playing out of position at points in
Right.
the past, whereas now we're playing in position. So, and then the other thing with that is the training environment is so much different because you get 20 match days a year, and sometimes you double up, so a few more than 20 matches. But the training environment is the majority of the experience. So
Right.
if every day you're battling with your teammates against each other, that's where you get better. So that's where it helps to have this deep squad.
And even when you weren't in season, they're out here in this field house playing all the time.
I hope so.
All the time. I felt like every single day you come walking in the building and there's 2 or 4 of them out there playing.
Right.
And that is something maybe we haven't seen in the past. So obviously you're pushing each other and saying, all right, you got me yesterday, let's go today.
Yep.
Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen a group play as much as this group has.
Yeah, we have been playing a lot. I know there's a few that have been playing more than I have. But
Figure it out, Brooke.
I know. But
The grizzled veteran.
I know.
I don't need this.
Yeah.
But I'll walk in to go work at the front desk, and there's like 3 guys waiting for me to just grab them a crank so they can go to put up the net. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then a few of the girls will text in our group chat and be like, hey, anyone want to go hit right now? I'll be like, oh, okay, let's go hit. And I don't think that was the case last year where we hit as much as we did, but I feel like it's just going to be that tennis takes over the field house at this point, because we should just put UWS tennis up there right now, because they're always in there.
Fair enough.
On a spring like this, I mean, get baseball and softball out of there.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we'll be outside again today, and hopefully tomorrow we'll add a session. So, yeah, it'll be nice.
How about on the men's side?
Yeah, for new folks?
Sure.
Yeah. So Igor's holding down that top spot. He's a sophomore from Brazil. Len's holding down that 2 spot from Japan. 3, who do we got? Oh, so 3 and 4, we got a couple guys in from India. So Yash and Sharon are holding down those spots at the moment. They've been great for the squad, just good freshmen, and helping out with coaching as well with the youth camps and stuff. And then 5, another freshman, Luca from Brazil. And then 6 has been a rotating spot right now. So we got some guys rotating through there. What's cool is we got a transfer in from NAI school down in Florida. He's been an amazing doubles asset. So lots of new faces again in the lineup this year, just like last year. And I will say I am excited to coach a sophomore and junior squad, just so we can have some experience in it.
Right.
I think that's when we're really going to see some good stuff. But lots of new faces on that side as well.
You mentioned Igor holding down number 1, and he won a lot last year. It hasn't been as easy this year. How is he handling that?
He loves it.
Okay.
He loves it. You know, he's a guy that just wants to play the best players all the time.
Yep.
So he's not backing down to that challenge against any of those players. So, you know, he's you talk about UTR a little bit. It's not a big thing, but universal tennis rating. He's got like the 4th or 5th highest UTR, and you want a high UTR, right? And he's playing our top spot because he's the guy. He's the competitor. He wants that spot, and he is the best player. So, you know, there's guys that will challenge him, but it's funny to see him, you know, go up against guys that are 2 UTR points above him and just get, you know, 50% of the games, which is what you're looking for. Just compete at that level. So, yeah, he loves the challenge. So him and Len at the top are like, let's just play good teams all the time. It's funny. They said, Coach, would you get fired if we went 6-20 because we only won our conference matches and just played the best teams in the country? And I said, well, I don't think so.
I'm going to go ahead and say probably not. Probably not.
But that's what they want. They want to play the best teams. So, yeah, it's fun. He likes it.
I was just curious because I know he's a fiery competitor.
Yeah.
And I mean, from the first conversation because he worked for me last year, and he was like, well, I won the preseason tournament thing, so I'm the best player here.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. New guy. Confident.
Yeah.
Well, then you're taking a lap with him too.
Yep.
Where you got a chance to like talk a little bit more, and yeah, he's an interesting kid.
Yeah. Him and Jacob are captains this year on the men's side, and they've done a great job. And yeah, he's confident and bold, but he puts the team first. So it's nice to see a guy go out there, and whenever we're training, he's 100% locked in, and whenever we're not training, he's not locked in, and it's fun. You know what I mean? So like it's cool to see somebody be able to flip that switch so well, because it's a great example for the team. So yeah, on the women's side, it's interesting this year with sophomores and freshmen. We decided not to go with captains. So we've kind of paired up a sophomore and a freshman just for the leadership side of things, and it's been really nice just to, you know, not suppress voices, and all the sophomores are, you know, have that equal voice, and they're helping the freshmen learn. And then, you know, next year we'll see if it's the same deal. We might just stick with it and just pair a sophomore up with a freshman again and see what happens. But it's been interesting to kind of see that develop on the women's side. But I like it so far. I don't know what Brooke thinks.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, that's kind of the thing we did in high school with like the underclassmen and the upperclassmen. So I'm used to it, and I think that it's really good connection with one person because I'm paired up with Stella. So she's from Negaunee, Michigan, and I have been up there so many times because we have a cabin up there. So we have that connection off the bat that we know that area, and we're both very similar. So like we can hang out all the time and stuff like that, and it's been really fun. And I know that a lot of the girls agree that it's been good. So
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's different too. Like the men, I think, appreciate the 2 leaders, and the women appreciate that side of things. So every team's going to be different.
Right.
I think we've established a pretty good,
yeah,
leadership so far.
yeah,
Well, that's also on the women's side because they are so young.
Right.
They're sort of kind of figuring themselves out at a certain point.
Yeah.
You know, and it allows people to just kind of not have to worry about the pressure of being a team captain or a leader just because you're anticipated to be. You know, you can just kind of be yourself.
Yeah.
And then just kind of learn together and just see where things grow from there.
Yeah, it's not easy to be a captain. You're not always
No.
the one that's liked. So,
Nope.
Yeah.
Jacob's done a great job, and he deserves it. He's been around for 4 years. He knows what's going on, and Igor's an older sophomore, so he gets it too. Like, there's definitely pros to it. But yeah, I like this
Yeah.
system.
Let's talk a little bit about conference play because it'll be here before we know it with how quickly this year has flown by.
Yeah.
We're going to be in conference play, so the men defending champion on their divisional part of it. I still have a hard time getting used to this whole north-south division thing. But
too.
what do you see conference-wise, both on the men's and women's sides?
Yeah. So a big thing that I'm trying to bring into the conversation this year is no expectations. So like love, kindness, and no expectations has kind of been that hopeful push on my end. And so yeah, we're just kind of looking at those squads, to see what happens a little bit. But we'll see what happens. So Northwestern will be tough on both sides again, and that'll be the biggest competition in the North. Morris, the women lost to Morris in that play-in match last year. So we got that date circled as well. But, it'll be interesting. I know a few of the other schools got some players in. So Crown is building an awesome program as well, which is great to see. So I'm excited to see what happens with the conference play this year in the North. Of course, it's harder to track the South.
Right.
We just don't really see those teams in season. In the SLIA conference there with Greenville, Principia, Webster, some of those schools. So it was fun to see those.
Yeah, because your first exposure to them, I guess, was the
tournament. Yeah, would have been the tournament. Yeah.
There's very few similar opponents. So it's curious to see what happens. Like we go down there and we match up 1v2, 2v1. And the winners advance to the finals on Saturday. So, we'll see what happens. And this year it's in St. Louis, so we get to take a trip down there and play outside for our conference tournament, which should be fun. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
doing it on the conference dime too, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be good.
Right. Yeah, it's always nice when you don't have to pay for it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Final thoughts?
Nothing other than
Nope, none.
just zero thought. I'm looking forward to it. I always look forward to seeing you guys play, and hopefully the weather will hold. Because I know you like to play on the outdoor court. Don't want to have to be in the field house too much. So I just to clarify, are you going to be playing your home matches then on campus, or are you going to be playing up in Duluth?
Yeah, so good question. And I was going to make a plug for that. We play in Duluth on February 16, 17, and 18.
Okay.
16th against St. Scholastica. So
Okay.
we want to get a crowd for that one. I think that'll be fun. And then the 17th, we play
Stevens
Point, which will be fun. We got some connections with that team, so that'll be good. And then Sunday, we play Concordia Moorhead, all up at the indoor club in Duluth. And then when we start conference play, we open with Northwestern. That'll be on the road April 13th. But we do have a few conference matches outside in the spring here.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Yeah,
All right. Well, that's good to know.
I have a soon-to-be 5-year-old who will be very excited
nice.
because he,
Teddy will be out.
he'll be out for sure because
All right.
he likes tennis.
Good.
He likes it, and he knows the tennis players as well. Does he? Has he met? any?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. But
We'll just have him spend some time with Brooke. and
he
he'll be
just
fine.
enjoys. He likes watching tennis. Like
Is
he
he going to be a 2040 commit or
24.
2037.
2037?
2037,
Okay.
yeah.
Write
Yeah.
that down.
He's already being recruited.
He's a 2037.
Yeah,
But,
so,
he'd have to be a dual because he's hockey obsessed
hockey
right
guy,
now
yeah.
too.
Yeah, exactly. We have to come in after.
But
yeah.
he jumped right up and watched the Aussie Open with me. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey,
Nice.
There's a good connection. A lot of people do tennis and hockey.
absolutely,
so,
it's great for your footwork
Yeah.
and
Well, you were a pretty
wrist
serious
strength.
player at one point
For a while,
tennis, yeah. So
before baseball went out.
before baseball went up, but I did not know that about you until we actually talked about it. That the fact that John was quite a tennis player back in the day, and he enjoyed playing quite a bit. So he watches a lot of it. Yeah, so
Yeah, get Teddy going.
And Teddy really wants to play. He
following Dad's footsteps.
Yeah.
So he'll be out for sure. There's no
All right.
doubt about
Good
that.
deal. Good deal.
That's cool.
He'll swing and miss if he tries to hit the ball, but
Yeah.
You know,
That's okay.
That's all right.
You know what though? He's at an age where as long as he's just taking it in and watching it and
Yep.
saying, "Hey, I might want to do this someday."
Absolutely.
That's all that matters.
Yep. 100%.
Yep.
So he will be there.
Sweet. Good deal.
That'll do it for this week's episode of Eye of the Swarm. We want to thank Coach CeeJay Schaffner and Brooke Wilfong from the women's tennis team for coming out and joining us. For both of them, for the Big Sound Matt Johnson, I am John Garver, and thank you for watching Eye of the Swarm.